The Edmonton Oilers come up short, losing Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final to the Florida Panthers. Hey everyone, Rob Wong, joined alongside by Rob Tychkowski and Gerry Moddejonge of the Edmonton Journal. And guys, a tough one last night for the Oilers and their fans, falling 2-1 to the Florida Panthers in Game number 7. And now that you've had some time to digest what you saw last night, Rob, what do you think went wrong for the Oilers in that one?
Not other than they didn't score another goal. That's probably it. That's how Game Sevens go, right? Like it's always a 2-1 or a 3-2 game, and it's one play here or one play there. And they had a couple of looks like before Florida scored its 2-1 goal. Edmonton was a couple of inches away from scoring that goal themselves, and then Skinner lets in one that wasn't great, and that's the difference. The Oilers spent the last 2.5 period and a half trying to make up for it, and they just couldn't get it. And that's what Game Sevens are, right? Everybody gives everything they have on every shift. It's really hard to get a goal. So the only thing that went wrong is they got one and Florida got two.
Well, Rob, I think they just ran out of gas, man. I think they were going pedal to the metal, and not only this series. I mean, yeah, they beat Dallas in 6 in round 3, but I mean, even before that, I mean, their backs were against the wall twice against Vancouver, and from that point on, in my mind, it was just they had no other choice but to stomp on the gas. And you know what? I think they just ran out of fuel. And yeah, it was the worst possible time, but I mean, coming back from 3-0 is supposed to be difficult, and there's a reason why not a lot of teams do it. And I think that's what we saw.
Yeah, pretty remarkable that, as you mentioned, they played a lot of hockey and even a lot of hockey in the final few minutes of that game. And you can tell pretty late that they were starting to look a little gassed by the end of it. So I think pretty much every team in the NHL, Gerry, would take making it to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. But when you look at this Oilers season, how do you think of it as a whole?
Yeah, man. I mean, you said it nail on the head right there. I mean, there are 30 other teams who didn't raise the cup as well last night, right? I mean, what a heck of a ride. I totally feel like we got our money's worth. And I don't think there's anything disparaging you can say about the effort. And, man, just looking at how far this team has come from back in October, just amazing. Not even the same crew in my mind. These guys just by leaps and bounds have really shown that they belong here, and their time unfortunately has not come, but certainly feels like it's coming.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of half and half, right? They were one game away from capping one of the greatest seasons of all time, maybe the greatest Stanley Cup championship of all time. And instead it's just heartache and dejection. So it's really tough to balance that. They did some amazing things this year with McDavid's points and Bouchard's evolution and Hyman coming a 50-goal scorer and coming back in every series and coming back from 3-0 down. They did a lot of amazing things coming back from 31st place in November. At the end of the day, you lose in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, and that's the wound that you're going to feel for a long, long time. So it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, right? It was an incredible season, but just a devastating finish for the team. So, I mean, however anybody wants to view it is up to them. But I know if you're a player in that room right now, I know exactly what you're feeling.
Yeah, to Gerry's point, only one team can win the Stanley Cup every season, so it is difficult to climb the top of the mountain. But Rob, we saw the Florida Panthers get back there for a second straight year, and they were finally able to lift that trophy. When you look at this Oilers team, it's very clear who the stars are in the squad. You mentioned there was a lot of growth. What is the missing ingredient, in your opinion, that could or should potentially get them over that ultimate hump?
They have to figure out a way to get into a series a little quicker than they do. They trailed. They trailed 3-2 to Vancouver. They trailed 2-1 to Dallas. They trailed 3-0 to Florida. You can't spot the other teams those types of leads in the playoffs because you're facing tough opponents who are playing well, and you just can't keep coming back all the time. So, their first line and second line and third line and their goaltending and their defense, like they were very complete. You don't get to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final without being a complete team. But you can't spot the other guys a 3-0 lead and expect it to go any other way because it hasn't since 1942. So I think most of the ingredients, if not all of the ingredients, are there. They were good enough to win a Stanley Cup championship this year, so you can't say that there's a whole bunch of holes. But you just have to start faster in the series. I think that's what they'll look back at this year and say, what were we doing 3-0 down?
They've shown they're never out of it and never give up hope, right? I mean, and they've shown just how far a team can make it on absolute belief in themselves. The amount of times that they've come back, not only early in the regular season, as we've talked about already, and how many times over these playoffs, their backs are up against the wall, and they've showed they can play desperate hockey, and they can find success doing that. I guess the lesson to be learned here, the big number one takeaway is, maybe try a little bit of that desperate energy earlier on, as Rob mentioned, and you don't find yourself with your back up against the wall, climbing out of a hole that's impossible to climb out of, except one historic moment so long ago.
Well, as you guys mentioned, it was an incredible run, an incredible season by the Edmonton Oilers, but unfortunately they came up just one win short. Should be a long offseason for some of these guys, but as we saw with the Panthers, you can always get back there the next year, and maybe you are the one hoisting the trophy at the end of it. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. For Rob Tychkowski and Gerry Moddejonge, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.